All right, so thanks for coming on Channel 9 again, Scott.
Cool, my pleasure.
All right, we have another face here. People might not have seen him before, at least on C9. Who are you?
I'm Schormann. I'm Director of Program Management in the Expression Group. I'm responsible for product strategy and product design, especially for Expression Blend.
Excellent. So Silverlight 3 RTM, congratulations, guys. That's very, very cool.
Thanks.
So I want to talk about, briefly, we're at version 3, and I want to kind of go back a little bit in the past and think about the initial vision of Silverlight. I'd like just to reflect on where we are and how's courses changed, as you release. Let's talk a little bit about that, right?
Well, we kind of announced Silverlight about 2 years ago, and for the very first time, and then we shipped kind of the first release of Silverlight about 18 months ago, and we shipped the second release about 9 months ago, and so today we're shipping the third release. So it's been a fairly fast kind of turn to the crank, and from a kind of our vision of where we were when we first announced it 2 years ago to today, I'd say it's stayed fairly consistent. Our goal with Silverlight was to kind of enable kind of next generation media and what we call rich internet applications or RIA solutions. And it's still very much kind of the vision and the goal of Silverlight. We've added a lot of capabilities over that time, and so both in the media space as well as in the RIA space. Including with Silverlight 3, the ability now to build both RIAs in the browser as well as outside the browser on the desktop. We've certainly added more features than you could possibly imagine. We still have more features we're going to add.
I'm sure.
But I'd say the original goal in terms of kind of how do you build, how can you enable user experiences that go beyond what people expect today, and how do you, as a developer and a designer, create those as easily as possible, and much faster than you can in the past. That vision stayed pretty much the same. It's just been, making that vision come true has been kind of what we focused a lot on.
And of course, one of the, let's talk about your side of the house.
I think one of the really important aspects of Silverlight is that it's really been one of the first UI platforms that has really been designed for toolability for designers. It has been designed so that it's much more cost effective to actually get designers really involved in the process of creating software, which is something that has always been a problem. And as we all realize that in order to get better user experiences, we really need other people than just developers involved. This is a real important factor, and I really think we're now at the point where we're probably having the best developer-designer workflow story and integration story in the industry, and from the people who are using it, I think they start really to appreciate the efficiency and cost-effectiveness that we can achieve with Silverlight.
I'd say also in terms of, one of the things we often talk about with Silverlight is kind of how do you enable designers to be part of the process, and so I talk to people, certainly to a lot of shops and a lot of development teams where that makes total sense because they have kind of official designers that are part of the staff or part of the project. I talk to a lot of small shops though where people are both designers and developers, and the same problems of like, okay, I want to build an attractive app, or I just want to build an app that doesn't have to actually look super special and attractive, but I want to have really good usability. I want people to be able to understand the app in a really good way, and I want to be able to deliver it to a client, whether it's a big client or a small client, and I want to make sure the client's really happy. I think those are things that even if you're a one-man person working on a project and you're playing both the developer, designer role, developer, designer, site author role even, that these same characteristics of how do I design for great usability, kind of how do I iterate, how do I get feedback, and how do I build the best possible experience? That's something that everyone has to face, and I think that's one of the things that's nice about where we're at. I think now with Silverlight, both from a platform capability and then also from a tooling side, is kind of as Christian mentioned, we're at this nice inflection point where we have a unique set of capabilities that no one else is offering today, and not just on a competitive side, but from a UI platform and app experience side. It's something that we've never had even for building traditional Win32 apps in the past.
Sure.
And now we have kind of the best of the richness of the client, deployment of the web, and then having these tools that kind of allow you to very easily exploit that. Is kind of a nice trifecta to have.
Absolutely, and one of those new tools is SketchFlow.
Yes.
which of course at Mix, as you know, and we're going to link to another interview on Channel 9 where you can learn about sort of the basics. But let's talk about that. I mean, SketchFlow is incredibly useful from a design to development perspective. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, SketchFlow is basically a set of prototyping tools integrated in Expression Blend. And you know, when you go out, and we've done that a lot, talk to product designers and people who actually design user experiences, developers or designers, you often hear that, you know, one of the major pain points in that is, you know, like the inability to cost effectively create compelling prototypes quickly and easily. And I have made the same experience. I've been developing and designing UI for 20-something years, and it's just been always painful to, you know, like make the prototypes that allow you to really evaluate what is a great, you know, what is a great UI. And you know, as the old saying goes, the best way to have a good idea is to have many of them. Quick prototyping is just a great thing to help you to get to a great design. And so SketchFlow is basically a tool that enables you to very, very quickly with, oops, I should probably switch off my cell phone before going into interviews. Sorry for that.
No problem.
So SketchFlow basically is a set of prototyping tools that make it really easy for you to quickly sketch out the flow, the navigation, the composition of an application, and to explore it from the very first moment on. So whatever you build in SketchFlow is a real WPF or Silverlight application. And you can start out with something that is just basically a storyboard made out of rough sketches, and you can evolve it and iterate over it, you know, and make it as real as it needs to be to communicate the design intent you have with your prototype. You can use animation for that. We have a state model that allows you to interactively model states. You can do navigation. You can use data binding and all our data modeling features to really playfully, interactively build data-bound, data-driven applications. You can use behaviors to add real interactivity, all that in a very designer-friendly and quick environment that doesn't require you to go down to code. And really it's about making prototypes that can be as real as they need to be.
Excellent. Very cool. So let me ask a question, because we've talked many times, and the notion of really rapid iteration from version to version. What is it about Silverlight and your technology, and perhaps your alignment, obviously, with the CLR, I mean, with .NET in general, that allows you to pump out all these releases so quickly? Besides, I'm sure you're a slave driver, you know. What do you mean you can't come in on Sunday? I'm just playing. So can we talk about that? How do you do these quick iterations? What is it that enables you to do this that we've not seen really before from pretty much any of our products? How does that work?
Well, I think there's a combination of things. I think one is, you know, a big one is we are building on a lot of the investments we've already made. And so, you know, things like the CLR, things like .NET, and, you know, it goes beyond just sort of, you know, CLR and kind of .NET, but it includes, you know, C#, VB, Link,
absolutely,
the core class libraries, ASP.NET on the back end. Like all those things are investments that we've had, and so we've taken that code. You know, Silverlight includes a version of .NET and the CLR built in, and so, you know, we've pulled out some of the things that aren't needed, but, you know, a lot of that core engineering work we've been able to leverage, and that's given us a huge head start. You know, and I think the other thing that we've done is from the beginning, you know, from the get-go, and the code base is also just designed it to you know, in a nice way so that it maintains good portability, but also just from an architecture perspective, we've kept the code very clean, and that's given us the ability to kind of rapidly evolve and execute. And I'd say, you know, the third thing is just from a team perspective, I think we have kind of the shipping religion, so to speak, and you know, and we're in a very competitive environment. I think, you know, building, you know, next generation browser experiences, whether it's, you know, competitors like, you know, Flash and Flex and Air, whether it's, you know, competitors in terms of, you know, other client runtimes, whether it's other browsers, you know, it's a pretty fast moving space. And so, you know, for us, you know, we've kind of set a goal of, you know, let's make sure we do a really good job of prioritizing the feature set, let's keep the runtime small and tight, and then, you know, let's just chip. And, you know, the reality is if you can continually deliver, and if the team knows there's going to be a release, you know, not too far off the next one, you know, it helps in terms of making the right calls and prioritizing, and you can get a lot of stuff done.
Absolutely.
Yeah. On the tool side, it's also, we're using actually our platform ourselves. So Blend is actually itself written entirely as a WPF app, and part of the reason why we can ship so quickly and with so much stuff in a release is that the platform is just enormously productive for doing this type of stuff. I mean, Blend is obviously very UI heavy as a tool, and